Okay. So yeah, I'm the women's lead youth team physiotherapist at Chelsea Football Club, working with their women's team. So I oversee everything medical to do with the under 23 girls all the way down to the under 8s. So I have about 85 players in my academy, or in our academy, sorry. I'm quite fortunate to be at a club like Chelsea, as my role is full-time. And I have many other casual and part-time physios that help support and manage our 6 academy teams. So yeah, just a bit on my background as it's quite relevant to you. I started working in football 10 years ago, and my first team was actually the St Mary's men's first team. And then as I did my sport rehabilitation undergraduate degree, my last placement was at AFC Wimbledon. And I went on to work there for 5 years, developing their men's academy medical department. I then went to Brunel University and I did my Masters at Physiotherapy there, and I worked at Fulham, Crystal Palace, before going to Chelsea. And so that over the last 3 years, I've been specialising in women's football. And I just thought it was a good time to give you guys a bit of an introduction and insight into where the medical team sits within this multidisciplinary team within a football club, and how we can help with the success and development of the programme and their players. So our first aim, a most important aim really, is to prevent injuries in the first place. We've got lots of different things that we do to help this. So we do lots of pre-season screening. We make sure that we're aware of any medical conditions, such as asthma, to make sure the coaches can make sure we've got the asthma pumps out on the pitch. Any allergies, we've got EpiPens if we need them. And we've completed any investigations or specialist referrals for cardiac issues or respiratory issues and things like that to make sure our players are safe before they enter the pitch. We also do pre-screening, musculoskeletal and functional screening, where we look at the length and strength of muscles, the stability and integrity of joints, and then provide any strength and conditioning programs to help address any high-risk injuries, high-risk areas for injury. We give activation slots before training where players can fire up their glutes and their core and get ready for exercise. We might give maintenance slots for soft tissue release or taping, and we might need to modify sessions if players are having aches and pains to allow them to continue training. Obviously, if an injury is sustained, we will then provide the necessary care, management and treatment to help our players get back to full fitness. Which brings us to our last stage, which is an accelerated but effective return to play. Our players are youth players. They're young, aspiring players with long careers ahead of them. So it's not a case of just patching them back up and getting them back out on the pitch like you might see with more senior teams. We need to make sure our athletes are ready to withstand the demands of football. Okay, and this in itself is an injury prevention strategy, as it will reduce re-injury rates and creates foundations to optimise further growth and development. So our ultimate aim is to maximise training and match availability through reduced injuries, which creates increased coaching time and development opportunities through greater exposure to the football environment. So I've put here a working team. To achieve success in football, we can all go in different ways, but ultimately we need as few injuries as possible. And our injury rates aren't just dependent on the medical team. That's any performance or coaching staff or anyone that implements physical activity. So together we can all modify training and work on reducing injury rates, as many of these can be easily avoided. Put here to touch on the difference between contact and non-contact injuries. Obviously, there's only so much we can do to reduce contact injuries, but non-contact injuries are often derived from fatigue, overloading, lots of training, where the muscles, the muscle fibres and the stabilising structures are too tired to work efficiently, and it's then that we often find that we get injuries, and this is where the coaches can really come in and help out. So a primary aim of organisations working to develop youth athletes is to find and implement this optimal dose-response relationship between training volumes, characteristics and variables and the physiological outcomes. So if we don't balance these things correctly with sufficient rest and recovery strategies, instead of getting the positive outcomes such as strength and speed, endurance, agility, we might actually find we get the more negative effects of training, such as injury, illness, overexertion, soreness and fatigue. So this is like a continuous conversation that we're having with the coaching guys. So-and-so's come in and actually they're having aches and pains because of this. We're going to send them out to training, but can you modify it in this way? And then we work together with the coaches to make sure that we're keeping this steady balance, allowing our players to rest and recover and keep them out on the football pitch before they actually get injured. It's really important to note that all individuals won't respond the same to the same amount of training, and that's why we have this back and forth conversation. I've also just touched on the return to play pathway. I think it's really important that coaches have a good understanding and idea of what they can expect a player to need to achieve between being injured and back on the football pitch. That can obviously really help with your planning, with your teams, and also limit frustrations of players not being back as quickly as you'd like. If you can see here the different stages, and also towards the end where the coaches can come in and help out to facilitate the return to play. So our first red boxes are obviously when they're in with the medical team, working with the physios. They might be injured. We might be able to get them doing a bit of gym with the team. We might have them out on the pitch doing light pitch rehab, linear, so straight line stuff. We might move on to curved running, multi-directional, high intensity work before we can start getting them back into training. And there's this crossover phase as we return to play that actually we might say to the coach, so-and-so can come out to training, but they need to stay non-contact. Or they can come out to training, but they can only do 25%. And then next time we'll do 50%. And then we build it up through there. It might be that after 2 or 3 training sessions, we can look to give them some reduced game time. And again, that's a conversation with the coach. So-and-so's fit, but only for 30 minutes. And then we'll build it up that way. So I think it's just really important to actually see how the medical department does work really closely with coaching teams, and together we can really help to optimise the success of these players. So, teamwork makes the dream work. Thanks.
Great, thanks Amy.